Listen, you join us, ladies and gentlemen, today on a bloody wet day here in Dublin. I don't know what it's like where Thomas is, but I'm very delighted to welcome Mr. Thomas Walsh, he of Pugwash, he of the Duckworth Lewis method, who has joined us today to talk to us about this thing here. Look, the magic of
yes,
Jollity, which is your album from 2000. Oh, look at that! Yeah, 2005 originally. But why are we talking about it today, Thomas? What's going on?
well, I finally sorted out. How are you, Pat? Anyway,
I'm good. Yeah, sorry. How are you doing?
It's what a flesh wound. I'll throw that in. It's by Monty. Yeah, well, it took a long time for this to resolve itself legally because some of the albums we did, well, most of my albums I did with 1969 Records, which was the label that was set up with Dara Bone, a Dublin solicitor guy, lawyer kind of fella, and great friend and amazing lover of music. And he's just set up this label in 2004 with me to kind of put acts like myself out in the Pale and Lear and all these kind of bands he loved. And I got a few other acts in during the times who were really good. And it became a kind of a success story for a while. But, you know, it was just drink, drugs and madness, really, for that period of time. But a lot of really hard work and a lot of really great records. And one of them, I'm proud to say, was my debut on the label, which was the one that featured It's Nice to Be Nice, which is one of my, well, it's my most famous song in Ireland. You know, it's played regularly, which is great. And
that was in a movie as well. Wasn't that in a Colin Farrell movie? Was that one?
No, it was in a movie recently with Tony Collette.
Oh yeah, okay.
Bear Marked, it's called. That wasn't a bad movie, but yeah, it was in that.
Is that this one here?
That's yeah, the track on that. Anyone Who Asks was in the Colin Farrell movie, Pride and Glory.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that was about 2007 that happened.
All right, sorry, I'm gone ahead. So go back where we were.
No, that's grand. But that album is 2002. You just showed there. It's just that Nick Harcourt picked up the track. He was musical supervisor on that movie. But back to Jollity.
Sure.
It came out in September 2005, but because there was some money involved, because that album you just showed there was made for about $6,000 and recorded mainly in Crumlin Village in our old apartments, Glebe House. And I remember we drove Jason Faulkner up from Soundcheck with Air just after 9/11. They were one of the first bands that were playing because touring stopped for a lot of bands and all that stuff. But Air kept touring and Jason was in the band and he was a friend. And we got him from on Halloween night, bonfire night, to come up to the house in Crumlin to record his bits on that album, the Almanac album. And it was amazing because he's an LA born and bred, and he was out the door of the car like a dog, tongue hanging out, because like massive 50-foot bonfires every 500 yards, driving him all the way up through Drimnagh and Crumlin. It was amazing. And because you know that would burn down LA if that happened, of course.
Yeah.
So it was just great memories, of course. But with the Jollity record, we got money involved. And so I did things like I got in touch with Dave Gregory from XTC about doing a string arrangement, and which he did because he had to listen to the stuff first. You have to like it first before he just did it. So he did, and he loved it. And that's been a great relationship ever since. And he's a great friend. But we ended up doing it in Abbey Road Studio 2, doing the strings.
Right, yeah.
Because I knew the string quartet, the section, through Frank Donnelly, who was a guy that was helping me out with some stuff around that time. And Frank was a bit of PR, a bit of this, bit of that, promotion and stuff. And he got to know the section. They were an LA quartet. They did things like Radiohead's OK Computer from start to finish, strings. So they were touring that around the world, but they were also Grant Lee Phillips string players. So they were in London playing a gig, and Grant Lee Phillips pulled out of gigs with ill health. and they stayed on in London for a bit. And Frank had mentioned that we were looking to try and record strings, and we'd love to get them in.
Mm.
And he said, "Well, look, we just did a session in Studio 2. Let's make a call." So they did, and that's what happened there. We ended up in Studio 2, completely just by chance.
And
And when things like that happen, that means something great is happening, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I was
Just
thinking. For a bloke like you, who, you know, you're not unfamiliar with the Beatles. Let's be honest.
Oh, no, I'm familiar with them. I think I'm surrounded by them here as I look around.
Yeah, well, I can see that. But I mean, going into Studio 2 there. I mean, sure, that must have been a dream come true. You weren't in there before then, were you?
No, I wasn't in it before that time. That was the first time ever. And since then, it's amazing. It's like anything else, you know, you go in once and you just go back and back and back because you make connections with people. And I've mastered pretty much everything since that time. From 2009 onwards, I've mastered everything in Abbey Road anyway.
Yeah.
And recorded again and was back again for various things over the last 15 years. So fantastic, you know. And of course, you walk into it and it's seeping of history, and it's not only just a retro thing, because there's a lot of millionaires from America who come to and book Abbey Road for 3 days because they've millions of pounds and they play Rickenbackers and they film it, and you know it's crap. You know, it's a dream come true. It's better off than going and buying a car or something for $100 grand. I don't know, but so that's cool. But you know, it's not adding anything to the world of music or art or anything. So you know, we were there on merit, and I'm still very proud of it. I'd love to go back and do another session because it's been a while.
Do you lift up? I mean, when you go into a place like that, and not that there is any place like that, is your game lifted up? I mean, do you know, is there magic? You know, as you said, like, is there magic there, or is it just another building? What, you know, does it?
It's every single inch of it. You know, I mean, we were let in the night before the session, and your game does have to go up because you know you're good enough because you're there, and you're there with some very famous people anyway, which is a great thing. But your game has to raise simply because you could easily just sit there and just go, who gives a shit anymore, you know? This is the Mecca, this is it. But you don't, you have to keep on it. But of course, I invited everybody and their fucking cat to the sessions. Like, this was in the day before, you know, it's forgetting COVID and all that stuff. It's a lot more tougher to be in now because they're much more, even in the last 15 years, say, since that time, the Beatles' legacy has gone into the stratosphere. Sure. You know, it was always huge, but now you know how big it is. It's just, they become this legacy of, you know, this incredible thing with social media and all. It's just become even more huge. So people used to just go in there sometimes and stick their head in and all, but you can't even get near the place now. You know, it's very security driven, which is fair enough. Back in them days, I just invited everybody. And the control room was like Studio 54, the control room. And I was down on the floor with a string quartet and Dave Gregory, and you'd look up and everyone was having a great time. But it's still great memories, and we did what we had to do, and it was great. But yeah, it's a very, very, very beautiful, inspiring place. And we sat down the night before and had rum and cokes because the studio was free the night before, so they let us in the night before. So we pulled over the couch to those old heaters you see, the old 60s photos. They're still there. Put the heaters on, because I think it was April 2005. And we just got rum and cokes all night. I was still drinking at the time. And we had I had the Beatles book, the Mark Lewisham book. Yeah. And I was going, hey, stand there, you know, the old drummer. Stand over there. This was John Lennon was doing the vocals for Hard Day's Night. Right there. 25 years ago tonight and all that stuff. It was just...
Sounds good, yeah.
Sounds like great.
So you had your man Dave Gregory, he did the string arrangements for Rose in the Garden of Weeds, right?
Yes.
I Want You Back in My Life, the lovely song for your mom.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And but he ended up did he, when he heard those demos, because he's on all the rest of it as well, he's doing loads of stuff on it. So, I mean, was that it? He got the demos and he said, oh, yeah, I want to be part of the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And he kind of fell in love with us and myself, and we just became great friends in that session. And it was a tough time for Dave because, you know, he was leaving XTC at the time. Pretty much. Well, it was a tough time anyway. But session work was few and far between and stuff. But also to do a session with such fun and such a buzz, and also, you know, musically quite solid. He was just delighted with that and spoke about it for a long time afterwards. And like, he's done guitar world pieces and incredible photo sessions with our original Jollity t-shirts, which were beautiful. It became a kind of a record that a lot of people loved and a lot of fans loved. And by the way, that's the test pressing of the album.
This is the one that's coming out now on Friday.
Yes. So,
did you do anything? Did you do anything with the sound? Did you rejig it, or just the same as it was?
Well, that's a good question because I normally do. We did some rejigging of the artwork, which is just subtle because there's a picture disc which is very limited,
right.
And because the picture disc is the moon, because that's a part of the makeup of the artwork, we put a little world on the front as opposed to the Jupiter on the front, which is what the original is. So that is now the world.
Yeah.
That's the world on the picture this now on the cover, because it would be the moon looking back at the world. All that sort of stuff.
That's very clever, Thomas. That's
very clever. But I wanted it to, and would you believe, because it's such a such a kind of a not well funded, let's put it that way. There's a better word, but I can't think of it. Because of that, you know, I asked about a possible doing I think it's called a UV point or something. It's something like that it's called technically. So basically the world would be, another way, it's just be shiny.
Yeah. They told you
cost about an extra 500 quid. So just went, all right.
That's enough of that. Well, I mean, what, like, when you say that it's limitedly funded, so whose idea was this? Your idea, or did someone come to you and say we want to do this?
Well, Marcus Holler from Sugarbush Records is an old friend, and he's a fan, and he likes to put out some really good some really good albums on vinyl only, obviously.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, I know my limitations and I know my fans, and he can repress pretty quickly, and he does really quality products. But the thing is, I don't just let him do it and he puts his own label on it and stuff. Like, I just redesign all the labels with Brian Hickey here in Ireland. So that's where I put my own money in, you know, where I just get Brian on board because he's a genius. And he did all the original artwork anyway. So he comes back in and we sit down and we rejig the labels. You know, we do all the whole thing about an image on one side of the label and all the tracks on the other, and say other side, these tracks, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
If he did it, Marcus, in-house, it would just be simple labels with his logo. So I redo the labels, we redo the artwork, we clean it up. And normally I remaster because I mean the recent rarity set I did on Sugarbush, which was the Good, the Bad, and the Pugly, which I'll hopefully send you a copy of, because I'll have some copies here. My friend Sean McGee, who just did the Metamorphosis Stones remastering, he did all the Beatles mono stuff.
Right.
But I know Sean McGee for years. He's in Abbey Road. He's a brilliant master, and he just did it for nothing, basically. I sent him over the files, and he mastered all the demos I did in my shed in Drimney in Abbey Road. And it was just a 300 plus kind of run with some lovely original artwork. It's all really quality stuff, but it's all very, very small and almost, but it's right, you know. I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to press 2,000 and expect to sell them.
Well, I mean, when that came out the first time, did it come out in vinyl the first time?
No, that's what I mean. It's the first
Yeah.
time on vinyl, and the fans have been asking and asking
Right.
and asking for it. I've only one album left now to do on vinyl,
Which is that?
which is 11 Modern Antiquities, was the follow up to that.
I have it right here.
Yes, thank you. And that was in the top 100 albums to Irish albums to have before you die by.
Well, I haven't died yet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's good.
and
The,
that looked lovely on vinyl as well. But
yeah. I mean, this one here, what was I going to say about it? Yeah, we'll come back to just Dave Gregory. There was something I wanted to ask you about that. On the album before, which is here, there's a song called Apples, which Andy Partridge highly recommended. Thought it was one of the best things he'd heard in ages. So did you get introduced to him through Dave Gregory? Was that how you met Andy Partridge?
Well, that's the thing. A friend of mine, Peter Fitzpatrick, just a Dublin guy, but he's a really top guy in Microsoft. Very talented man. Circa 3 is his band as well, by the way. I'll give it a little plug. Very cool synth music. He's a great guy. But he was given this commission by Microsoft to get artists, kind of off-kilter artists, to do music for certain bits of websites that they were going to do. And he asked Andy Partridge, because he was a big fan of XTC, that's how we met, to do a song for a Microsoft website. You get him a few bob for it, which he did. And the song was Born Out of Your Mouth, which Andy did, and it's a fantastic song. And it's on his Fuzzy Warbles collection and stuff, which is actually behind me there.
Mm.
And so the thing was, that's a great story out of that. We won't go into that. Well, anyway, he met Andy through that and had a connection with Dave as well, because they kind of had dinner when they were there, whatever it was. So when I mentioned it, I'd like to get strings in, Peter said, well, I know I can get in contact with Dave. So he did, and just by Dave hanging out with Andy, he played him some of my stuff that I'd sent Dave, and Andy fell in love with Apples. Thought it was one of the best singles he'd heard in years, and went on BBC Six Music and all talked about it. It was lovely. That's a grand ringtone.
Hello, I'm in the middle of an interview. Can I call you back? Yeah. Sorry, my own fault. Should have turned off.
Call me back. Cheers.
I should have turned off that. Now, what were you saying about, sorry about that.
That's it. He just went on Six Music and waxed lyrical about apples, and I was like, fantastic. And it's funny, Don Letts played it as well and said lovely things. Don Letts?
Really?
Playing apples?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That never made much sense to me, but then again, I'm just probably being invertly musically racist or something.
Yeah,
thinking Don Letts couldn't play an outstanding pop song.
You know.
But so it was really cool because it meant BBC started hearing about me, and I've had a great relationship with Six Music and stuff since. So it was just a great start to a new era of my musical life, because I never thought I'd make anything past Almanac, the one behind you, because I put everything into that, the kitchen sink, as they say. But Dara came out of nowhere and saved me really musically, and once money's involved, you can start making records you've always dreamed of. But of course, being Irish and playing that kind of music, you know, they weren't flying off the shelves like toilet rolls. You know, they were staying on the shelves like fucking, I don't know.
Like yesterday's bread.
What stays on the shelves? Like vegan mayo or something, I don't know.
Something like that.
Even though it's quite nice vegan mayo, I have to say.
Well, I've yet to experience that joy. Tell us about with Partridge, right? So once you'd met him, then how did you come about writing Anchor with him?
He left a message on my answer machine because he'd ring a lot then, and I wouldn't be there. And it was the old days of the phone, you know, the landline. And he'd leave a message at it. One day he left me a message for my birthday, and he said, "When you're not there," he says, "well, sing you this song anyway." And he sang Thomas Walsh is the birthday. It was basically the verse melody I took for Anchor. Yeah. Because we hadn't planned to write it together. We'd mentioned it, but we sneezed a few times together. But there's nobody else in the house, by the way. I can.
It's okay.
And that's a rarity, by the way. A sneeze, isn't it? Whoa. Yeah. Rock and roll.
Get scared.
So I just said to myself, right, this is something I won't tell anyone. I won't tell him. And I took that melody, and that's the actual verse from Anchor. the verse melody, and then I wrote everything else around it. Asked Duncan Maitland, originally from the Picture House, to just do a little bit in the middle, which he did, and it was beautiful, and it all came together. Because I did that with some people about getting them on songs with their idols, because as much as it has to be right for the song in my head, I was working a lot with Duncan at the time, and I just thought, he's such a talent as well. He'd add to the song.
Yeah.
So even though it was like, do you want to get on a song with Andy Partridge? Because, you know, even though there was a bit of that, I also knew he'd do a great piece. So he did. That's the middle bit. And everything else was me. And it was just written like that. So it's a three-way. It's a three-way.
It's a three-way. Nice.
Yeah.
You can all do it.
Wanker.
Listen, can you give us a blast of it? Have you got a guitar? Can you give us a blast of it?
I have a guitar. I can give you a blast of that track.
Well, sure, look, give us a blast of anything, but just that we're talking about that one.
Well,
maybe you could explain. I'll tell you what, let's have a little...
hold on.
All right, yeah.
I have a... what I'll do is I have to remove my chair just to get... Oh, look at my arse.
Give us a bit of a masterclass there on how the difference between the three bits of writing on it.
Okay, well, basically, Andy's original melody was Thomas Walsh is the birthday boy, blah, blah, and all that. That was his. Yeah. So I changed it into so basically the song starts with long forgotten Dead Sea worlds, shower me with your pearls and mend the bellows and hoist the sail. We'll set sail for the sun. So that's what I wrote as well. And then the chorus was I won't leave this pier, 'cause you've anchored me to here. That's the chorus. And then Duncan's bit was and when in sleep I think it's leaving day, a sea of smiles and streamers waking us away from the bay. And then it's it's all Eric Matthews on trumpet. There's a bit of a neo-Nazi Trump lunatic, so I've had to.
I have his name down here. I remember you told me that before. And I didn't know
I've
named you.
He used to write me some of the most ludicrous fascist nonsense, but say he loved my music so much. He's the weirdest psychopath. Sad, really, because he's made some of the most beautiful records. I mean, hugely influential on me. Anyway, the Lateness of the Hour album, his second album on Sub Pop, is a modern day classic record, and of course Fanfare was his first single, which if you don't know it, Pat,
I don't.
Well, write down Eric Matthews Fanfare and just go.
Write it down right now.
Because of course the NME called it the 90s Penny Lane when he released it, and it's funny, it's a silly quote, but it's actually quite weirdly truthful in a way. But anyway, incredible guy, but pity that he is what he is. But he played some beautiful stuff on that track as well, and that was the three parts together, and it became this really lovely end of album tune.
It is, yeah. Just do it.
And thanks, man.
Now listen, and don't, this is meant as a compliment. You can, of course, you can hear the Beach Boys in that, and
yes, of course. Well, to be honest with you, it is more High Llamas, that track.
Yeah, no, fair point.
Personally, because I'll tell you why. The outro, I've been obsessed with the High Llamas since I heard them, since I heard Fanning play them in like 94 6 maybe.
Yeah.
He played Nomads on his show, and I waited for
over
it.
there. Yeah, great record.
Yeah, I waited for about 20 minutes to hear who it was because I didn't know who they were. Of course, there was no internet, phone stuff. Then, so I had to wait. And so thank God he said it. But when it comes, because they used to do things like just outros, like 6 minutes long with the same chord, I absolutely just fell in love with that. And that's kind of something the Beach Boys didn't really do, but of course they were hugely influenced. But on Anchor, I do that outro, which is the just all the way on the. And I just said to myself, I'm going to do it for like 2 or 3 minutes. And even though that's quite small compared to the Llamas, it was definitely an homage to the High Llamas. But of course, the Beach Boys, of course, you know, the lineage is there.
What I was trying to do a clever link there when you interrupted.
No, the link would still work.
The link still work. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead with my link, right? So
Yeah.
that links back to the first song on the record, right? It's Nice to Be Nice.
Yes.
And we're going to get a story out of you about this. Now, It's Nice to Be Nice is a beautiful song. There's 2 stories to go with this. The first one is you get an email from someone's manager.
Yes.
And just tell me this story.
Well, this was in the MySpace days, would you believe? And I got an email through MySpace from, again, someone who I've got to know really well and is a great friend, David Leaf, who David has written some of the greatest books in pop and done some of the greatest documentaries. But he did a great one on the Bee Gees, great book on the Bee Gees, because he worked with them in the 70s and 80s. But his main part of call then was, of course, doing all the stuff for Brian Wilson. And through a friend of mine who's still a great friend in New York, Joe D'Ambrosio, who manages Tony Visconti and people like that. I was already talking to Joe last night. He was involved in Jollity because he was going to get involved monetarily. But in the end, it didn't work out. But he came to Ireland. He flew over to Ireland all to meet with me and Dara and stuff. We had a few great nights out with another great guy, Robin Danar, who's a sound engineer from LA. And they just loved my stuff. Flew to Ireland, had a few meetings, had a hangout. Great fun to meet them. But he brought back with him promo singles of It's Nice to Be Nice. Because the first time anything was pressed on 69, it was a promo single with a Dave Couse and the Impossible song with it, because Dave Couse had signed to Dara's label as well. Dara had done some work for Dave and a house and stuff. And Dave was on the label, so we used to hang out a lot, myself and Dave, amazing guy. And so the first promo single was It's Nice to Be Nice on a Dave Couse track. And he took some of them back to LA and to New York. But Joe gave one on to David Leaf and said, you know, this is very Beach Boysy, and I know you're managing their friend, but have a listen. And of course, David fell in love with it and played it to Brian one day when he was over at his house. Brian absolutely floored, loved it, played it all the time in his car.
Wow.
And played it a lot, and would just like, because, you know, let's face it, I didn't even know this, of course, not thinking, of course, well, I just wrote the song. But Brian kind of loves anything that has a title with nice in the title, you know. Wouldn't it be nice, you know, and everything is nice and happy and loving. And so food and niceness to Brian.
They're 2 good things. Yeah.
Manna from heaven. And so he really, really loved it. And David just said, look, we're coming to Ireland on I think it was the Greatest Hits Tour 2006, if you remember it, Vicar Street. And it was just after the Smile Tour, which I did see in England because he didn't play here on the Smile Tour. But we flew over to I think it was Brighton or somewhere like that, somewhere. And anyway, he said, Brian wants to meet you. And the thing is, what I always remember about it is that I got the email and I was pissed. I come in about 4 in the morning, I was pissed. And I lived in a bed sitting Crumlin now, literally with mice and no hot water for like 23 years. It was just existence. I'm paying for it now. A lot of my medical troubles have been in that bed sit. But to be honest with you, I started ringing people at 4 o'clock in the morning, pissed, to tell them Wilson wanted to meet me. But the other funny thing about that is when I went to Vicar Street that night and I got me pass and all, I remember meeting, what's his name? Vicar Street. The main guy. I always forget his name. Who runs the place.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. But I always forget. It's been a long time. And he said, look, because I went to the door where, you go in upstairs. And he says, Thomas, don't even try, will you? It's just not going to happen. He's not going to have anyone coming in. And I says, well, I have this kind of pass that. He goes, you can't have a pass to get by me and all this. And I says, well, it's kind of silver coloured. And he went, oh, hold on a minute. Then I seen Jeffrey Foskett behind him, and Jeffrey was like, Thomas, come in. And there was Brian just sitting there and at a table. And Jeffrey goes, Brian, this is Thomas. Thomas, it's nice to be nice. And he goes, hey, are you that nice to be nice guy? I went, yeah, I am, Brian. And he goes, it's a great song. That was it.
Richard, that's enough.
Well, of course it is, because he was smiling. And then, and they weren't allowing any pictures even, but Frank Donnelly, who I was mentioning earlier, came in with me, because he got the pass as well, because I had a +1. And he came in with me, and he took a picture on a throwaway camera. Which I still have, of course. And it's a beautiful picture, because I'm leaning over him just... Because he's still sitting down, I leaned over and he's smiling. And he took one picture afterwards straight away and he was like that. And it's almost like when the light is on with Brian, it is like a spiritual thing. And I know that sounds like a lot of old cock.
No, I've seen him play a couple of times since, and I've reviewed it a couple of times. And you know what I'm talking about here. It's exactly what you say. There are moments when the light comes on and it's something else, and there are other moments when the light isn't quite as bright and it's not as good.
Well, I have endless, incredible Brian Wilson moments. I mean, my favourite is we were touring with the Blue Tones in Scotland on the 10th anniversary of 9/11, September 11th, 2011. We were playing that night in like the Barrowlands, I think, or something, with the Blue Tones supporting. But we got invites by all the Brian Wilson people because they were playing up in the mega hall or whatever the hell they were. So we got off stage as quick as we could and ran up to the show. And we got in to see the whole second half of the show. And it was amazing, It was a great night. He did God Only Knows that night and sang it as great as I've ever heard him. So it was very special to be there. But at the end, when they all sing fun, fun, fun and all, and, Brian walks off like that, and then he comes back on, kind of thing. I'll never forget it. He just kind of stood up, went like that, started to walk off, waving, and then just stopped and went. Just did that. Yeah. Also, in the middle of Smile, when he was doing the fire section with the flames going over his head, he just looked at his watch for about 10 seconds. That's one of the greatest rock and roll things I've ever seen on the stage. Yeah. Kids were at that gig crying because it was so intense. And he just sat in the middle of it all like that and then looked at his watch. Yeah, he did something like that the last time I saw him. Blondie Chapin was on her out the front doing a guitar solo or something, and he was sitting at the piano, and he just looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, Yeah, because he goes around Brian. Doesn't he go around Brian playing the guitar? And Brian's like, who's this idiot? It's like, there was a lot of that, That's what he's saying in his head, but of course he knows who it is, but he's kind of saying it at some stage. Who's this guy? Yeah, I don't know. And there's Paul. Like, here's a question for you then. Just out of interest as a fan, I mean, why does he keep going out on the road? Well, I know exactly why he does, because I've heard it from the horse's mouth. Right. Brian has a lot of kids. Now, Brian has a lot of kids at puberty because he adopted a lot of kids. Oh, okay. Brian has adopted kids, and I think he's fostered kids. I'm not quite sure now with that. Yeah. But I know he's adopted kids with his wife of now. And he literally comes back from being on the road, and like they all go, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," and jump all over him. and like they want to play in the garden, and Brian just wants to sit in the chair and watch the TV and have some ice cream. Now this isn't anything bad.
No,
This
there's
is
nothing wrong with that.
this is what Brian really wants to do because he's Brian and he's in his 70s, and you know we never thought he'd make it out of the 70s. You know, let's be honest about it. So he literally just gets on the road to have
get out of the house.
has a bit of freedom on the road.
All right, okay.
But also he's playing.
Yeah. Well, I thought you were said he was gonna out there because he's got these kids who have to eat. They have to eat, so he has to.
No, they can eat. That's all right. They're all right for the field.
Yeah.
No, he just loves his solace. You know his.
All right.
And even though it's the road, I mean, he can be on his own a lot because you know when he finishes the gig, he's taken away, and of course all the lads hang out and stuff. But you know, Brian never hangs around anymore, of course, because you know he just wants to go back to the hotel and lie down and have a nice cup of tea or whatever he wants to do.
Give us a blast of that. I love that song.
Oh, thanks. Well, it's just very simply silly, but. Nice to be nice, as my mother once said. It's good to be good, and it's fun to be fun. It's nice to be nice, as no other would say. It's good to be good, and it's fun to be fun. It's nice to be nice, to be nice to be. And then 26 harmony vocals. It's nice to be nice, to be nice to be. Where you see a smile that's painted on you now. And did you hear about so-and-so leaving that trail of sorrow? It's nice to be nice, to be nice to be. Ooh, ooh, ooh. A little snippet.
Finishes with a 7th, of course. It's got it, you know.
I'm gonna finish on the.
Oh, very nice. Tell us the song that comes after it on the record, right? Because you'll remember, or maybe you won't remember, is that when we were in Bloody Mary's the last time, when I was reviewing you, this is the one. Your mic has gone a bit.
Hello.
Bit better.
It should be okay.
Anyway, this night in Bloody Mary's, I was the one shouting from the bar, "Play Black Dog, play Black Dog."
Yes, the Bloody Mary's gig.
Yeah.
Yes, you were there with the other 6 people.
Yeah, but we made a lot of noise. We made up for it by making a lot of noise.
Well, and you know what? I don't care. The gigs are always great, and they're remembered for what they're remembered for. And you know, who cares? But you know, it is. It's funny that was very late. That was winter last year.
Yeah, it seems like a lot longer ago, doesn't it?
What was that not a social distance gig well before it?
You see, you were ahead of your time.
I actually true. Remember, I actually brought along a tin of roses.
I do remember that you were throwing sweets at the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, to share in the Christmas spirit, and I threw one at a woman who was there as the wife of the support act, Tommy Keys.
Yeah.
And I smacked her in the nose with a fucking caramel. So I felt terrible then, and but anyway, yeah, it was a black dog. Please stay away from me. Old wave, please wash your pain from me. I used to shout in the old days, but that's the kind of buzz. That chord is quite weird though, because I do a B flat with a finger and then a G note and then a So it's kind of a, well, you know, when you find those chords,
Why not?
stick them in a song.
And what was the song? Is the song about the black dog?
Well,
You know.
well, the thing is, typically with me and my extensive knowledge of music, I did know there was a Led Zeppelin song called Black Dog, but I knew the Nick Drake Black Dog song more than more than the. But it's like Let's Dance, you know. There's just endless amounts of songs.
But I mean, is it about being, you know, feeling down and?
But of course, because that was the time. Because I never drank and I never smoked all my life, and I was very much not so much I was anti it. I just didn't like it. And but then of course you meet what are they called? Females, and yeah, and they drive you fantastically to drink.
Oh, straight.
And I'm not saying it's their fault. I'm just saying they open the doors to the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't scared to try a few things when you'd meet other people who were on tight ropes every day of their life. You know, running across between the Twin Towers and surviving. So I was like, okay. So at that time I was heavy drinking and heavy partying. And so there was a lot of dark days after the heavy ones.
Sure.
Where you're there, what do they call it, Black Tuesday or something, if you've had an incredible weekend session. Tuesday, you're kind of like under the blanket. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I still have those. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know. You can see it in your eyes.
I don't, yeah, I'm clear as a bell today. What are you talking about? What are you saying?
No, just mean in general.
Oh, yeah.
No, but you can enjoy.
Nobody's face is supposed to be this colour, you know?
Oh, Jesus, don't stare with my face. But it's true, though, because it's such a great thing when you can just have a buzz with it. And I was having a great buzz with it, but of course, I've been this size pretty much for the latter part of my life. And it's not a myth. I could certainly hold a hell of a lot more liquor than a lot of people. Because I'd have a bottle of vodka before I left the house.
Good man.
And I'd just be buzzing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's got to be doing damage to something. And of course it has, because I have some liver problems now, even though I stopped drinking 10 years ago. So, you know, I paid a bit of a price, definitely. You know, I never preach to anybody because they're going to do what they're going to do. But just be aware of that.
So that's where that song is coming out of, anyway.
Well, subconsciously it did.
Yeah. Listen, when you say liver problems, right? This is going to be the worst link in history. But it just reminds me of another story about
liver problems.
It reminds me of It's Nice to Be Nice, and you contacted me because someone else had got in touch with you about that song. This is only recently now.
Okay.
Because you contacted, wasn't that the one that Jürgen Klopp heard and got on to you about? This is a great story. And the reason I'm telling this story is because I remember you contacted me and said, "Oh, Pat, can you do something about this?" And I, of course, didn't even know who your man was. So, you know, I was very gratefully passed it on to someone else. Yeah. But you tell this story.
I'm very proud I picked yourself, Pat, too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I should have totally known your complete and utter lack of knowledge when it comes to
I think I said to one of the lads, "Oh, he got a phone call from Arsene Wenger or someone. Do you know who that is?" Like, I hadn't got a clue who you were talking about.
Well, in fairness, no, there's no fairness involved. You just should have known. But
tell the story.
The thing about it is, just again through music, there's this guy called Arne Ziegler, who's basically the Soccer AM of German TV.
Right.
And in fairness, he's better. You know, he's a very, very good. Yes, exactly. He's a very, very exceptional writer and broadcaster, and he was basically the guy who interviewed the players after a match in Germany for years, but did it in a kind of a more funny way. Now, I think that's lacking all over the place in the UK coverage and stuff with, like, say, Sky and BT Sport. We love the serious interviews, but there's nothing better than if somebody goes on and has a bit of a
absolutely
reality, almost a funny look at what happened in a match, as opposed to the usual ridiculous questions they get asked. And so Aaron became this fan. He would buy all my demos and all my albums through me. He'd get in touch personally, and then he just said one day, I used to hang out a lot with Jürgen. He's an old friend of mine, and when he became the Liverpool manager. because he knew I was a Liverpool fan. And I just said, right. And he sent me pictures and all.
They're a football team, isn't it right?
Yeah, they're a football team. Yes. They're doing quite well. And just watched last week tonight, and John Oliver will tell you. But he's there making tea in the kitchen with Jürgen Klopp, and they're hanging out watching TV and all. And it's ridiculous, you know. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So that was years ago, or 5 years ago. But then I've been in hospital a couple of times this year with my gallbladder. Right. As part of my ongoing treatment that I would have had this year, that hasn't been taken out because of COVID.
Yeah.
So sometimes it flares up and I have to deal with it. And of course, it's a pain it really isn't nice. But you have to go to the hospital for a couple of weeks for them to flush it all out and whatever.
Lovely.
So I was in hospital one of these, and Liverpool won the league while I was in there.
Right.
And I just put this video up where I'm a little teary, 30 years. And I went to the toilet the next morning I went to have a shit the next morning in the hospital.
Lovely.
And a shower.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this is a PG rating. And a shower. And I came back from the saunter, and I had a message from Aaron, just a little circle on my messenger, and he said, I just thought you'd enjoy this. This is for you. And I clicked on and it was like, Jürgen talking to me, asking me how I was, and sending a nice message and saying, I listened to your song, it's nice to be nice. He says, I really think that's perfect for my life. I think that's the way we should all be. And it's, it was just...
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, I never even do stuff like get in touch with people in the press and go, oh, do you want a story? Because that's so stupid. That's not what I do, as you know, from people not knowing who I am. And so I'm not on everything every day, Yeah. But I just said, no, I want people to see this because this is really cool.
I know it is, yeah.
And I'm not cool, so this is cool. So I got in touch with you to do it the right way, the music and,
Yeah.
So you did, but then I had to go through the usual other tabloid stuff.
Yeah. Why, did other people pick up the story?
Yeah, they all picked it up. The Metro and the Mirror, and they just nicked your piece.
Yeah, sure, that's good news, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was cool, but the funny thing was, I was in the what you call it, a kind of a secondary ward in Drogheda, Our Lady of the Lord's Drogheda Hospital, and surrounded by people who didn't even know what a guitar was, let alone football. So they were all like, I'm saying, do you know I got a message from him? And they're going, oh yeah, who's that? Now what? What do you do?
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Are you from Drogheda?
When you come on to me, listen. Let's go back to this. Let's meander back to the record we're supposed to be talking about. What about how it was received at the time? There it is. Because I was looking up, there was a good review in Hot Press, but there was one in the Irish Times that just must have rankled with you a bit. I don't know, maybe it didn't.
Oh, you have to remind me because I seriously...
I am going to remind you.
Who wrote it?
It's Kevin Courtney. So,
Kevin Porter?
Courtney.
Oh, he's a gobshite.
Now listen, let's just see what he says. It says, I Want You Back in My Life opens with an Imagine type piano, but builds nicely into something more than a mere Oasis tribute. You must have loved to have heard that. Yeah, fair enough. Look, and I'll tell you what he picks out there, which I kind of can hear it now when I listen to the record, slightly. He says, even I grabs a snatch of Suede's Animal Nitrate and mellows it down.
Well, the thing is about that was Keith Farrell's, my great friend Keith, who worked a lot on my early Pugwash stuff. A genius bass player and producer, engineer, everything. He's just one of those maestros. Very proud to know. And he used to bring that because he's like about 5 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And he was a big Duran Duran fan.
He's about my age, is he?
Yeah, 37. So he used to bring that. He used to bring a wonderful element of the 80s to my music, and I mean the kind of weird 80s, as in for me, Duran Duran, and then in the 90s it would be Suede and bits of this, because he was into all that stuff. Because I was just that little bit before where I would like a lot more Slade than I would like a lot more Duran Duran.
Nothing wrong with that.
That kind of thing. But as much as I like the odd Duran Duran song, of course, because a good song is a good song
Yeah, fair
I
point.
didn't know Animal Nitrate that well. Of course, I know the song well, but I never picked up his kind of nod towards it. And he did honestly say to me, "No, I didn't do that deliberately," because he's kind of like that.
It's only faint, you know. I'm not
It's
saying
only faint, but Jesus Christ, just play the song, you know. Well, if if we'd have sold 1 million copies like Animal Nitrate did,
yeah, that'll be all right.
but
Listen,
I've never ripped anything off. I've taken lovely homage.
yeah, that's the way to do it. A homage.
Yes.
And homage. Listen, I want to talk about a few things before we finish up. Right. First of all, how I heard of you, first of all, was on the Word podcast. You remember on that? And this was what I bought after that. I thought, oh, he's good. You know, you're playing a couple of songs on it. Can people see that, yeah? This is
You have it the wrong way around.
Giddy. Is it the wrong way around? It's supposed to be the other way around. Yeah.
No. If you turn that now in your hand, turn the top bit around.
Yeah.
Like turn it back, but turn it around.
Oh, we'll turn it around. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah. So our hair goes. Oh, is that right?
That was right. I just had it backwards. That's because it's got the name on the front. That's why I had that there. You know. So that's this. Anyway, this is Giddy. I don't know. But the reason I'm bringing this up, right, is like that's what I heard first, and it has apples and it has black dog.
Yes.
You know, it's fantastic. My genius as well. Great song. Finer Things in Life. But I'm going to play a little bit of Cash in the Attic here, because we were talking during the week, and you were telling me about these CDs and what they're going for. So I'm going to hold them up, and you're going to tell me, because this is amazing, to be honest.
I'll give you an honest appraisal. Yes.
This is amazing. Right? So first of all, right,
I like this kind of stuff.
The one we're talking about, right? There's the original of the one we're talking about today.
Yeah.
You can't get these anymore, can you? Know?
Very difficult to find. You can find them, but they only pop up now and again. I was selling them to the very end. In fact, even the one I have here, I don't think there is a CD in it. Yeah. But I've got 3 or 4 cases with no CDs in them. I don't know how that happened. But that goes for around 75 to 100 quid.
Jesus Christ.
Well, there was only, say, 1,500 pressed of all of my albums, sometimes less.
Right, yeah.
So they went, you know, when they went. They were repressed.
There's a ticket inside my one. That's from 2011 in Whelan's. I don't really remember that, but anyway, sure it was great.
What play? Where was it?
Whelan's. Pugwash in Whelan's, 11th of August 2011.
Yeah, it was the Olympus Sound gig. It was a great gig.
Yeah, was that the one where you were just back from America? I think? Just back from a big tour of America. Maybe that was it. Well, I can't remember. I'm sure it was great.
It was great.
Right, let's keep going. This one.
Yeah, that one's, well, they're all waiting for that one, my core fan base, to come out on vinyl, because that's the one that's left. But that as well, if you can get a copy, that's about 50 to 75.
Jesus, right.
That's a close one. Well, I have a few people who walk across the Atlantic for that one.
Really?
So that one of those sold for about 200 about a year ago.
Yeah, this one, sorry, I don't know if that one's signed by you. So I think I must have bought that off. Yeah, I think I must have bought that off you on the web or something. One of those ones where you found a box of them. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I would find boxes of them, and I got a call from my old label, which was Velo, Michael O'Shea, and he said, "Oh, we're clearing out the shed because we're moving out of the house." And we found a few boxes of Apple's CD single, and things like that are impossible to find, and a few album teas and stuff. But the Almanac one, the Almanac CD.
Right, I don't have the CD, no.
Well, the CD is the highest one. I think 235 quid. One sold for.
Jesus.
Well,
I could pay me tax bill for this year, basically, by flogging off these jokes here.
Yeah, but honestly, you could go to Discogs today, and there could be one off for 20 quid, and that's the way it works. It's whoever wants it will pay that.
Are you when you hear that, like, is that very gratifying to you that people are that obsessed with it?
I fucking love it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I love a couple of collectibles because all I do now is see. The thing is, I've collected so much of music. I mean, that's nothing. I've got like 35 boxes of like LP boxes of vinyls all around, and I've like 5,000 singles all over the place. And not only that, I collect a specific. I like certain groups, obviously.
Yeah.
And I collect them, and I love that.
The Idle Race. that kind of stuff that you're going on about for the last, since I met you anyway, you're going on about this, the idle race and,
Oh yeah, the idle race and, all those great classic. Well, they're very difficult to collect because they're all so rare.
Yeah.
But because I'm collecting since I was a kid, I've got all their stuff, but there's still stuff. So what I'm at now is I'm at the really high end of collecting.
Yeah, when you say stuff now, right, you say there's still stuff. So you'll be talking about something like an Italian sleeve in a different color or something like that, something mad like that.
Well, I would be, and you're not far away with the idle race, but the one idle race thing I don't have, which I have to get, which comes up regularly for about 250 quid sterling. So it's too pricey because I don't have any money.
Yeah.
But it's a Mexican EP.
Jesus.
Of the idle race with 4 tracks from the first album. So that's beautiful, but I'll get it eventually.
And does your heart ache that you don't have that?
Oh, absolutely. When I get it, I will look at it, I will smell it. I won't even play it probably.
Yeah.
Put it in a brand new plastic sleeve. I have many sleeves, fresh. It will go into a specific box that's waiting for it to be slotted in.
Yeah.
And then it will sit there. And then about 2 days later, I'll go, yeah, I think I want to look at it again.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll open the box and I'll have a look at it and I'll smell it again.
Yeah.
And then when people go, do you have that? I'll go, oh, here's a picture of it. And that's all the joys of collecting, as much as the music.
This swings around to other people who take joy in collecting. On this Friday, or beforehand, they can pre-order. So where do they go if they want to get Jollity, if they want to take part in this, what we're talking about? How do they do it?
Just very simply, just Google Sugarbush Records Pugwash.
And we put a link here.
All one word, SUGARBUSH. Sugarbush, just think of, I don't know.
Yep.
Meladia's private parts.
Sweet.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sugarbush Records, Pugwash, and everything will be there because it's basically Marcus is selling it from his site. I'll be getting my copies because the deal is I send them the stuff, all the basic stuff.
Yeah.
Audio, the artwork, of course. And he does all the rest. And I just get free copies to sell at gigs and future.
Or to send to your journalist friends.
Well, this is the thing. I will obviously be sending some to my dearest friends, and I'll have to do a bit of posting, which I haven't done in a while. So I'll need to get a few cardboard.
You have to leave that.
Yeah. But yes, I will definitely send you one. Would you like a picture disc or a vinyl?
Oh God, I'm not. I don't want to be taking food out of your mouth or anything like that. So don't worry about it. Whatever.
Well, one of each could be a push because I'm getting less.
No. Listen.
Well, if you want to picture this, you can shout now because I'll make sure I have one.
I'm shouting.
Okay, picture this.
I'm shouting. If they're going, I'll take it. So
the great thing is the album, has a limited 7-inch single, which is nice to be nice. Original version was never released as a single, and the 2019 version I redid with Neil Hannon and my original band for a Disney cartoon that's coming out next year.
Wow! So you eventually got a few bob on it.
I got some Disney, a little bit of Disney money for doing that about a year ago because it's a long time in the making. And but honestly, I'll be honest. Yes, I got a bit of money. But let's say it was 2 months' rent.
Yeah, well, that's better than no month's rent.
Of course. And not only that, I'm very proud to be. Honestly, I'm very proud to be a little Disney writer. From my humble beginnings in working class Trimney. I'm very proud that they kind of go, we like your music. Would you like to write a few songs? And we give you some. I go, absolutely, yes. There's no reason why I shouldn't. I'm very proud to.
Yeah, no, why wouldn't
have anything to do with people like that, because let's face it, you're a long time gone and I can't turn down anything really. I mean, let's face it, if Trump wanted to use one of my songs, I wouldn't give a shit.
You'd have to consider the artistic merits, of course.
Of course I would. But, I'm trying to give you a copy.
Yeah. No, I'll take it. Throw one of those in the envelope. No problem at all. Now, listen, before we finish, right, I'm going to have to do a song to finish up. But how does this, your completed collected works, where does Jollity stand in that for you? I mean, is it a high point? They're all high points, of course. But how do you look back on it,
Well, uh, it is the only album for me where I look back and I go, wow, that's that's pretty cool because I remember the situation in which we made it,
Right.
and it was very much. I mean, there's a million stories from that record alone because it's just me. It's too boring to talk to the general public. Thanks for sticking with us if you have, but there is great stories from that record as a musical thing because you know there was a lot of the drums are done in Bruce Shields' house.
Jeez. Right.
Do you know his son had the house on the property? Do you know Brush's place?
No, I don't know.
Well, his son has like this little house on the property of Brush's house,
So
and
Brush
he
has a
turned it.
vast estate.
What's that?
Brush has a vast estate somewhere in.
Brush has a really cool house, yeah, with a nice few acres.
Great.
And his son made this little outhouse place into a lovely studio. So through a few connections, we got up there to do the drums on a lot of the tracks on the album. And Brush would come down on his little tractor thing every day, and we'd stand out at the fence and chat to Brush about Skid Row and about all the classic things.
Mm-hmm.
That was the early stages of it because it was a year and a half in the making because it was so haphazard.
Yeah, yeah.
And me and Duncan's demo of Anchor, all the tracks were used for the actual last track, and I got Graham Hopkins in on drums.
And Johnny Boyle's in there as well. The fellow who never ages, he's on there a couple of tracks as well, isn't he?
Who?
Isn't Johnny Boyle on it as well?
Johnny Boyle, of course, yeah, major part of.
I hate that bastard. He never gets old. I don't like him at all.
No, he doesn't get old, but he will one day. It'll all fall.
Good. I hope I'm there.
But no, Johnny's great and an old friend and worked a lot of the Pugwash stories, Johnny, you know. So yeah, so there's just loads of other, because it was such a big. So I'm proud of the fact that it came together as well as it did, and it's sounding so good. And for a lot of the fans, it's the greatest album I did.
Yeah.
But then the Olympus Sound, which was nominated for the Choice Music Prize, I'm very proud of that one because that was written half while I was dying, and half when I came out of it. And it has this weird mixture of happiness and darkness. So I could see why that hit with a few people who nominated. Got it nominated for that prize, so it was disappointing not to win it because there was a lot of background to that as well. But every album, I'm sure, everyone has stuff going on. So, well, I think Jollity means a lot to me because I think it saved me.
Well, that's fair enough. Now, listen, I'm going to ask you before you go. I'm not going to say anything. You pick a song off Jollity and give us a few bars of it there, and tell us why. Tell us why you're picking this particular song. Well,
I'll pick this song because we actually did some cello on this in the studio too, and we did piano. And I always loved the fact that it was completely stompy, heavy song, which was great live. And I remember I had a lot of people from Germany back in 2005 sending me MySpace messages saying this should be a single. So for some reason, I think it would have done well in Germany. That's all I can remember. But it's called Something New. I'll give you a little blast. So it's like. Lived on the shelf just like everybody else, but for you. Gathering dust and my skin had turned to rust, but for you. Tend to my aid like a fleet of fire brigades came you. But what can I do to tell everyone how good you are? Oh, someday soon I'll roll into you. We will come back as something brand new. Someday soon I'll roll into you. We will come back They don't end like that, by the way. I'm just
They
ending
don't
them all
all
like
end
that.
like that. That's fantastic. Listen,
There's
Thomas.
just a bit, it goes on to get heavier and bigger on the album.
Listen, thank you a million for taking the time to talk to me today. Folks,
Absolute pleasure.
if you're not a complete idiot, go and buy this album while you have a chance to do it. Because, as we showed earlier on with our Cash in the Attic thing, it's an investment. Even if you don't like Thomas, go and buy the bloody record. Because you'll be able to flog it in 2 years. And don't say we didn't tell you so.
So you've said Cash in the Attic and flog it.
I'm trying to get my own show.
It just shows the quarantine TV you're watching.
This is why I have my hat. I'm hoping to get my own show on RTE, just going into people's houses going, what's this shit you have here? What can I get for it?
What's the story with the kettle?
What's the story with all this crap you have along here, Pat?
Well, that's what you could call it. Pat Carty, what's the story with this kettle?
Pat Carty's house. Yeah, there's Prince, and there's a darkness mug, and there's a skeleton of Elvis. And I think Freddie Mercury's over here, and Shakespeare, another Elvis, bottles of wine, bottles of whiskey. That's from
the Cheers bar in Boston.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, I went in and I had to have me, Norm was in the corner as a big cardboard cutout when you walk in. It's very funny. But anyway, just before you go, you say Cash in the Attic. Well, the funny thing is, I've had one of my songs on Cash in the Attic, and people constantly tell me, "Oh, you're on Cash in the Attic again," when it's repeated. It's the Duckworth Lewis method track, Mason on the Boundary.
I know it.
So ding, 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 ding. It's used on Cash in the Attic, the instrumental version.
Did that result in any cash in your attic?
I swear to God, no.
Jesus.
Unless it came in as an overseas payment, but I wouldn't really notice it when it's normally €16.27.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you're so high on the hog with all that Spotify money now. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
High on the hog with Spotify. It's amazing the sun's going in. I'm getting darker.
Yeah, that's because I mentioned the evil Spotify, the evil empire. That's why I came in like that,
That's exactly it. I'll tell you.